Story 1. Window shadows at 2:13 a.m. I always lock every door and window before bed. Living alone just outside Denver with only vacant lots and silent roads around, it became a routine I never skipped. Last night I even double-checked. Deadbolts clicked into place, curtains drawn tight. But I still couldn't sleep. Not really. I kept the baby monitor near my bed, an old unit with a fuzzy black and white feed pointed at my front window. I use it like a poor man's security cam. Most nights it only shows static. But at 2:13 a.m., something pulled my eyes toward the screen. There was someone on the other side of the glass, not moving, not even shifting weight, just standing there. Head tilted slightly forward, arms by their sides. The screen flickered, but the figure remained. A tall blur, too dark for details, but close enough for breath to fog the window. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared, waiting for something to change. My phone was in the other room. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want them to see movement from inside. The breath fog expanded and faded. Expanded again. Slow. Steady. I tried convincing myself it was a smudge, condensation, maybe even a trick of the grainy video. But the rhythm of the breath matched a human. It pulsed like lungs. And then it stopped. No movement, no mist, just stillness. Seconds passed, maybe minutes. The screen flickered again. For a moment I thought they were gone. But no, now the shape was closer. Their face, if it was a face, was nearly pressed to the glass. No features, just darkness. I could almost hear my heart thumping. I whispered into the dark, asking if anyone was there. Nothing. Just the soft mechanical hum of the monitor. I stood up too fast and tripped over my shoes. The thud echoed, loud. On screen, the figure flinched. Just slightly. Enough to prove they were real. I crawled toward the hallway, phone forgotten, and shut myself in the bathroom. Locked the door. Sat in the bathtub, the monitor still clutched in my hand. On screen, the window was now empty. Empty except for the faint smudge where the breath had been. I didn't sleep. I waited for daylight. When I finally stepped outside, there were no footprints in the dirt beneath the window. No marks at all. Just dry earth, undisturbed. Like no one had ever been there. But I still see the fog on the glass. Not always, just sometimes. Around 2:13 a.m. If anyone else has ever seen something like this, a shadow that shouldn't breathe, please tell me. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 2. Don't look at the window. I've lived in the same third-floor apartment in Queens for nearly 6 years. It's small, but the silence after midnight helps me focus on my freelance work, usually editing transcripts or ghostwriting blog posts for companies that don't deserve them. Nights are when I think clearly. When the world outside quiets down and the only sound is the occasional radiator hiss or the distant hum of traffic from Queens Boulevard. That night I was at my desk facing the wall. Just a lamp, my laptop, and the white noise machine running low. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard what I thought was the wind tapping against the window behind me. An inconsistent, dry ticking, like fingernails on glass. I didn't turn right away. It wasn't unusual. Wind, pigeons, tree branches, sometimes even debris from the roof. But it didn't fade. The sound would pause for a beat, then resume. 3 taps, then 2, then 1. I paused my audio playback and waited. Nothing. I resumed. Then the taps again, only this time I noticed something else. A shift in the air, maybe. That kind of pressure change that makes your skin tighten slightly. I turned, more annoyed than worried. The blinds were closed, but I could make out a dark shape through them, not moving, not flinching, just there, pressed close. I stood slowly and moved toward the monitor near the door, the one connected to my front-facing camera. It's angled to capture the hallway and the corner of the fire escape outside my window. The screen glitched briefly when I turned it on. At first, static, then a clean image. A man, or the outline of one, standing outside. His face nearly flush with the glass. He wasn't moving, just leaning in like he was listening. No motion, no attempt to open the window or knock, just presence, still and patient. I froze there, staring at the screen. My hallway was empty, no footsteps, no voices. I checked the locks again, deadbolt, chain, latch. All fine. The figure didn't shift. I waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Still there. I texted my upstairs neighbor, Greg. "Hey, anyone on the fire escape?" He didn't answer. I called. It rang twice and went to voicemail. I didn't want to make a scene. Maybe it was a maintenance guy or someone locked out. But at 2:30 in the morning? And why hadn't he knocked? I debated opening the blinds, just a crack, to confirm. But something in me resisted. Not fear exactly, instinct, like I wasn't supposed to look directly. The way you don't stare into the sun or down a long, dark alley even when it's empty. I turned the monitor off and backed away. I tried to return to work, put on music, typed a few sentences, but my focus was shattered. I kept glancing toward the window, toward the outline behind the blinds. It was still there, still not moving. I walked softly to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, not because I thought I'd need it, but because not having it felt worse. At 3:47 a.m., I checked again. The monitor had reset. Blank screen, no static, no feed. Just a black screen with a blinking timestamp. I restarted it. Nothing. I thought about calling the cops, but what would I say? There's a man not moving outside my window. I hadn't seen a crime. I hadn't seen him move. By 4:10, the taps had stopped. The shape behind the blinds was gone. I didn't open them. Couldn't. I just sat on the floor by the couch and waited for the sun. When light began to bleed in, around 5:30, I finally peeked. The fire escape was empty, but the window pane had faint smudges, like the marks a face might leave after resting there for hours. I checked my camera footage from the night. Nothing after 2:33 a.m. The last frame was a distorted blur of static and a shape fading into black. I even checked with the building super the next day. No repairs scheduled, no roof work, no reason for anyone to be out there. It's been 4 nights now. I still haven't opened the blinds fully. I've moved my desk to face the door instead. I try not to work past 1 a.m., and every time the wind kicks up and something ticks at the window, I feel it again. That pressure shift, that instinct not to look. If you've ever had someone outside your window who didn't knock, didn't speak, only waited, I need to know. What did you do next? Story 3. 2 reflections. I've always checked the porch cam before. Bed. It's a habit I picked up after a break-in 2 streets over last summer. But last Tuesday, I glanced at the side feed, the one pointing toward my bedroom window, and saw something I can't unsee. There were 2 reflections. one of me stepping into frame, and another motionless, not mine. The screen flickered, just for a moment. When the image returned, only one figure remained. Mine. I stared, trying to replay what I thought I'd seen. Maybe I had moved weirdly. Maybe the camera glitched. But there was a second shape. I'm sure of it. Still, I brushed it off. I was tired. It was nearly midnight, and I'd spent the last 12 hours under hospital fluorescence. My apartment was dark when I got in. Usual smell of detergent and faint citrus from the plug-in near the hallway. I didn't turn on many lights, just the one in the kitchen. I made tea, phone in hand, rewatching the footage. Nothing strange, just my reflection. But I paused at the exact moment the feed glitched. The figure behind me, it wasn't mimicking me. It wasn't moving at all. I told myself it was a trick of the light. Maybe the blinds caught something outside. Maybe a car passed by, but no headlights had swept the wall. The stillness of that figure was too precise, too human. I should have felt scared, but all I felt was wrong. Like something had quietly stepped out of sync in my space. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the bedroom door open, light from the hallway spilling in. I left the camera app running, glancing at it every time I felt the air shift. The window stayed shut, the curtain unmoving, but I swear I heard a soft thud, once, like the sound of a palm touching glass. By Thursday, I started turning the side cam off, not because I stopped being curious, but because I was afraid I'd see it again. That shape, that still presence. I kept thinking, what if it wasn't behind the glass? What if it was in the room, only visible in reflection? At work, I made jokes about bad Wi-Fi and ghost pixels. Nobody laughed. Maybe they saw how pale I looked. I started using the break room mirror to fix my hair, just to prove to myself there was only one me. But once, when the room was empty, I walked past the mirror and didn't see anything at all. Just the beige wall. I backed up slowly. My reflection was there again, slightly delayed. Saturday night, I finally slept. I don't remember dreaming. But I woke up at 3:28 a.m., and my bedroom was colder than usual. The window was still locked, no open vents. I didn't move, didn't even sit up. I stared at the closet mirror across from the bed. It was dark but not black. Something pale shimmered faintly in the glass. I blinked hard. It was gone. I stood, heart thudding, and crossed the room. Nothing in the mirror but me. I even waved, slowly to test it. The reflection responded in perfect time. I almost laughed. But when I turned to walk away, I felt it, this pause behind me, as if my reflection hadn't turned. Sunday morning, I found smudges on the inside of the bedroom window, 5 long streaks like fingers dragging slowly downward. No dust, no moisture, just absence. I touched the glass. It was smooth, clean, but the marks were there, only visible from certain angles, only in daylight. I haven't used the camera since, and I keep the mirror covered now with an old blanket, but I can feel it behind the cloth, not watching, waiting, like it's still deciding whether to follow me or replace me. If anyone has ever seen something not move in a mirror, like it chose not to, I need to know. Please. What did you do? Story 4. The screen flickered first. The flicker wasn't alarming at first, just a brief stutter on the screen as I sat back, half watching some true crime docuseries, the kind with dramatic reenactments and ominous narration. It was around 11:40 p.m., and my dog, Lenny, was curled into his usual donut shape by the radiator. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. I looked at the small security monitor perched beside the TV. We've had the setup for years, mostly for peace of mind. The image had briefly gone black, then returned. But what caught my eye wasn't the glitch. It was the angle. The feed had shifted slightly, now aimed toward the living room window instead of the driveway. I didn't remember repositioning that camera. Through the grainy feed, I saw the outline of someone. Tall, still, not pressed against the glass, but close enough that their shape disrupted the usual symmetry of the blinds. My first instinct was to pause the documentary, then mute it, as if silence would help me understand what I was seeing. Lenny didn't react. He didn't lift his head or growl. That unsettled me more than the figure itself. The house felt too quiet. The faint hum of the fridge, the occasional tick from the heating pipes, normal sounds, but now they felt intrusive, like something was listening to them too. I leaned forward, narrowing my eyes, half expecting the image to shift or resolve itself into something more logical. But the figure didn't move. Not once. I got up, slowly. I didn't turn on the lights. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I'd spook whoever, or whatever, was out there. Maybe I didn't want to be seen. My feet were bare, the wood floor cold. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the air was thickening. I approached the window from inside, trying not to make a sound. There was nothing there. From my side of the glass, the porch was empty, just the slight reflection of the living room and the distant street light casting thin shadows across the hedge. But on the monitor behind me, the figure still stood, unmoved. I turned quickly to check the screen again, but now it showed only static. Then a second later, the feed returned, this time aimed back at the driveway. I wanted to believe I imagined it, that maybe an old recording glitched its way onto the screen. I even tried to check the app on my phone for past footage, but the cloud backup showed no activity. The last saved clip was from 2 nights ago, a car passing at 2 a.m. Still, the discomfort didn't fade. I walked the perimeter of the house, even stepped outside with a flashlight, sweeping the hedge, the porch, the sides of the garage. Nothing. No footprints, no signs of anyone lurking. But when I came back inside, Lenny was standing now, staring at the monitor. He didn't bark. He just watched it like he was waiting for something to reappear. The next morning, I called the security company. They said no updates had been pushed to my system. No reason for the angle shift, no scheduled diagnostics. I asked if it could have been a hack. The technician hesitated, then said it was very unlikely. That phrase keeps echoing in my head. Very unlikely. That night, I left the monitor on while I slept. Around 3:12 a.m., it flickered again. This time, I didn't get up. I just watched the screen, breath held, heart drumming, until the image settled. No figure, just the driveway. But I swear I heard the static again, low and persistent, like someone breathing through a wall. I haven't moved the monitor. I haven't touched the camera. But every night since, I wake up at the same time. 3:12. Sometimes the screen flickers. Sometimes it doesn't. But I can never shake the feeling that something's watching from just outside the frame. If anyone else has had something like this happen, I need to know. Is it just me? Or is there something they don't want us to see? Story 5. Leaned in. I moved into the house on a Thursday just before dusk. It was a rental in South Pasadena, A two-story place with peeling blue paint, a wraparound porch, and creaky floorboards that gave it what the listing called vintage charm. I didn't mind the age. It felt honest. After a few weeks, I settled into a quiet routine. Work, podcasts, tea at night. The neighborhood was still, old trees lining the sidewalk like quiet sentinels. I never saw much foot traffic. The first time I noticed something off, it was subtle. One night, as I locked up, I saw a faint smudge on the window near the front door, about forehead height. It could have been from the movers. I wiped it without thinking and went to bed. The porch light flickered once around 2 a.m., but I assumed it was just bad wiring. Still, I started leaving the app for my security cameras open on my phone at night, just in case. It was a Tuesday when I heard the floorboards creak outside. I paused mid-sip of chamomile tea, staring at the wall. My phone buzzed. Motion detected. Front porch. I opened the app. What I saw made my breath catch. A man was leaning against the window, his forehead pressed to the glass. But not my window. The angle, the lighting, everything behind him looked wrong. The room inside was darker, emptier. There were no curtains, no bookshelves. It wasn't mine. I stared at the image, waiting for it to refresh. When it did, he was gone. Just an empty porch, bathed in the weak amber of the street lamp. I walked to my front door, opened it slowly and stepped out. The boards groaned beneath me, but the night was still. I looked at the camera, same window, same position. I glanced behind me at the actual window. No one, no smudge, just my own faint reflection, blinking back. I rationalized it, maybe a delay in the camera feed, an old cached image from a previous tenant. But the room he looked into wasn't mine. I didn't have an armchair facing that direction. I didn't own a grandfather clock. I didn't even recognize the wallpaper. The next night, I left all the lights on. I walked through each room, trying to match what I saw in the footage. There was nothing. No room matched that layout. I even went outside, stood where the man stood, pressed my forehead to the glass. The reflection showed my living room, warm and cluttered, but on my phone the app showed a still frame. That same man leaned in, eyes open, not at me, but at something inside. I called the landlord, asked if the house had ever been remodeled. She paused, then said no, just repainted here and there. I asked about tenants. She said the last guy was quiet, kept to himself, left everything clean. She seemed distracted. When I pressed, she muttered, "He was just off. We don't usually talk about it." Then hung up. I kept the curtains shut after that, but every couple of nights the app would buzz again. Same alert, same man, always at the same time. 1:17 a.m. I tried showing it to friends, sent screenshots, but somehow the images never loaded for them. Blank thumbnails, corrupted files. Last night I left my phone on the kitchen counter, camera feed open. I sat in the living room with all the lights off. At 1:17 a.m., I heard the floorboard creak again. My phone buzzed. I didn't move. Just stared at the dark window. Slowly, I stood and walked toward it. There was no one outside, but when I turned to check the feed, he was there again, leaned in. But now, he was looking straight at me. This time, I swear. Behind him, I saw a flicker of movement, a shape crouched low in the corner of that not my room, watching him as he watched me. I haven't opened the curtains since, but the smudge on the glass is back, fresh, lower. If anyone else has experienced something like this, please let me know. I'm not sure what he's looking at anymore. I think it might be closer than I thought.